Hello, I'm Ify Okocha, Deputy Chief Executive at Oxleas, and welcome to this week's edition of Oxwide. Later in the program, we'll be finding out about how we celebrated Black History Month and also what we have learned from the extensive patient experience survey on how our service users have found receiving care from us remotely over the past few months. But first, I'd like to take this opportunity to give you an update on the latest COVID-19 developments. Since our last broadcast, the government has introduced a new 3-tier alert level for England, with London being placed in Tier 2, otherwise known as High, as of the 17th of October 2020. As you'll be aware, this has resulted in additional restrictions for the capital. We have reviewed our guidance and are issuing updated guidelines on infection prevention and control today to all staff. This includes updates on visiting and patient leave. These will be shared in the COVID e-bulletin and are on the Ox. Currently, there's an increase in the number of our colleagues and patients testing positive for COVID. Whilst the actual numbers remain low, it is vital that we take all the steps possible to reduce the possibility of spreading the infection. We all need to make sure we put our hands, that is, wash our hands thoroughly, face, that is, wear a face mask, and space, that is, ensure that you maintain social distance interaction and don't let our guard slip. It is also important that we all get vaccinated against flu. Vaccines are available for all members of staff and details are on the intranet of how you can get your flu jab. I'm pleased to say that stocks of personal protective equipment remain good and we have effective systems in place to ensure that colleagues are getting the equipment they need. This is a challenging time for all of us and we need to support each other through these difficult times. It is also important that we find time to look after ourselves. So if you're planning to take some time off over half term, I wish you a restful and happy time. I have been very proud how we have continued to provide services both face-to-face and virtually during this pandemic. And now we're going to hear about how our patients have found the experience of receiving care virtually over the past few months in this short film.
Hello everyone, I'm Sally Bryden and I'm pleased to be joined here today by Michael Witney, Director of Therapies, Stephen Onamade, who is the Business Intelligent Development Manager for Oxleas, and Fadipe, Deputy Medical Director. And we're here to have a talk about what we've learned from people using our services, about their experience of using our services remotely over the past few months. Michael, perhaps you can start by giving us some background information about the survey that we've just done and why we undertook it and what it's told us.
We felt we wanted to understand what people's experience was of using remote consultations, which we started rather quickly. As you recall, we stopped delivering services pretty much in the way that we were, and we started to deliver services by different remote mechanisms. And we wanted to understand how people had experienced that. And actually, the results were extremely positive. The vast majority of people said that they actually had valued the opportunity to have a remote consultation. They understood very, very well the reason we were doing that. And when we asked them about whether they would like remote consultations in the future, again, almost 80% of people said that they would like to do that. So I think overall, we were very pleased with the survey we did and with the results we got. And I think tell us something about the way we want to go forward with services. We want to encourage, because patients said this too, was that they would like very much to see the clinician. Talking on the phone was helpful, but it actually would have been much better if they could have seen the person they were talking to. So we want to really encourage an increase in the use of video consultations going forward.
And Stephen, your team's been heavily involved in this process. How have you been working to try and make sure that as many people as possible have been able to give their feedback?
The most important thing for us when we do pieces of work like this is that we need to understand what the triggers are, what the drivers are for sending information to patients or for surveying patients. So the first step we did was have loads of discussions with the patient experience group, just to understand exactly what would be used as a trigger. And by trigger, I mean a transaction, something that's happened in Rio, which is the patient record system. So we look at things like first appointment discharges or whatever the clinician thinks would be a good trigger to generate a survey to the patient.
And you found that sending out text and SMS messages is something that patients respond to and find acceptable?
There's a lot of benefits, as you can imagine. First of all, it's instantaneous. So as soon as the trigger has happened on Rio, on the patient record system, that survey could be going to the patient almost immediately.
Abby, you've been involved in using Attend Anywhere. How have you found it?
I found it very useful and very easy once it's been demonstrated to you and you can log in. One thing I particularly like about it, which other platforms didn't offer, was the virtual waiting room. Once they get the link for Attend Anywhere, patients are allowed to wait in a virtual waiting room, which is almost like going to another outpatient clinic. And then you can have the interaction. And then there's also the option of being able to obtain feedback, as Stephen said, with Attend Anywhere almost immediately. I've had feedback from clinicians and from admin staff who said they've been able to manage their caseload better. Just been speaking to some staff from Memory Clinic, and they've been able to clear their backlog. I think what's been most important from the clinician's point of view is the kind of infrastructure that goes with it. So the kind of supports to set it up. And once they've had that set up, so Debbie Stanton has been brilliant at sort of going out to teams, getting it set up for teams, and then they've just run with it. So the kind of infrastructure that goes with it.
It's hard to see what's not to like about remote consultations. But for a large number of people, it's hugely convenient and it saves a huge amount of time for everybody, both for clinicians, of course, but also for patients. I get much more dedicated, focused time with a clinician who's less stressed and who's able to really engage with me using Attend Anywhere, which has worked fabulously, or even just on their phone. So it's hard to see why this wouldn't be a way to go for us for the future.
Thank you very much to all three of you for taking part in that conversation, and I think we understand it a lot more now, so thank you very much.
Well, that was interesting to hear about the positive experience of many of our patients and how we're using this information to develop our services in the future. Now, this is Black History Month, and yesterday, the BAMEx Staff Network held a very successful event to mark this. Joining me now is Laura Charles, Vice Chair of the BAMEx Staff Network. Hello, Laura.
Good morning, Ify. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Tell us about the event yesterday. What was involved?
So yesterday, we had our annual BAMEx Network Black History Month Network event. We have this event every single year, and it's always a very, very successful event. This year, we decided that we would celebrate you and me. That was what our theme was. And I think the sense of that, if it was, we as people, we don't really tend to actually look at us as successes, what we do. And it's not just for Black people, but it was for everyone in the world. We are all individuals with we all come with so many different aspects. So we decided, look at us as individuals and celebrate that individuality. But at the same time, it's that unity, that diversity that Oxleas bring to the trust. We have so many different people that come to work in Oxleas. So what we did, we said, celebrate you and me. We asked people to dress up in their national costume. We asked people to bring their flags, to wave from the countries that they were from. We then had some inspirational speakers, you being one of them, sharing journeys about life events that some of us don't even understand or even realize that these things are happening to individuals. So I found it was so inspirational, some bits sad as well, because I think for me, it was hearing the stories of 30 years ago, and it's still happening now. So I struggled with that a little bit, but it was powerful.
I know it was a virtual event. How many people took part in it?
Ify, I was very surprised. There were over 90 people on the event virtually. And when we set the event up, we thought if we got 40 people, that would be an achievement, because normally when we have our history month in the Marriott or Black Prince, we normally get about 100 people, and we always say, oh, they come because they know they're going to have lunch. But this time there was no lunch, there was nothing given away, yet still they came.
You've obviously told us what you got out of it, but I wanted to check. So, what are the next steps for the BAMEx network?
Well, if we're going to continue to do the work that we've always done, we've always supported our staff members. We've always tried to inspire them. We're the people that the network, we come together. We've been all the issues that the building affair at Oxleas and the work that they're now doing, that's come from the back of the BAMEx Network over 5-6 years ago. All those issues that we have been raising about the res and the bullying and harassment and the disciplinaries, all the unfair injustices that's been going on, we have raised them over and over again. And it became quite tiresome because, Juliana, bless her, I think she was the one that was pressing on with all the hard work. She was the one that was just saying, no, this is not right. What can we do? What can we do? And for years, it was almost like it would go to the board. They saw the figures, but nothing was done about it. And sadly to say, it was COVID and George Floyd that actually raised the awareness. Everyone, when COVID happened, when George Floyd happened, Black Lives Matter movement, it was almost, that was the turning point that everyone heard our cry. And I say the word cry, Ify, in a way because that's what people felt. They felt that they were unheard over the years.
I know that the BAMEx network have been really involved in the Building a Fairer Oxleas program, and I trust that you'll continue to contribute to that work, because ultimately what we certainly want to do is to make this a fairer organization for everybody, because as you say, we are diverse, but we really want to be inclusive. I trust that the network will continue to help in that work.
Absolutely. Ify, when last year we had one of our SLP events, and we had Jennifer Issaquah come in to do the cultural intelligence. When we saw Jennifer's presentation, we all agreed, and Matthew agreed, that was the first thing that we needed to do. And I'm so happy and excited that Jennifer is actually now coming. It's taken a year, but that is the first port of call. That the work that Jennifer is going to do with the board, starting with the board first, to then disseminate to the rest of the trust, that is exciting for me. And for me, that is a huge start.
Absolutely.
And I'm so excited.
Absolutely. Jennifer is with us all of Monday. Thank you so much, Laura, for joining us and for setting up such a positive and well-received event yesterday. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ify.
Before we close, I would just like to ask colleagues to do one more thing. Please complete your NHS staff survey and let us know what you like about working at Oxleas and what we need to improve. As a member of the board of directors, I can guarantee that your feedback will be discussed and it will influence the decisions we make. You will have received the survey by email, and if you haven't yet completed it, a reminder will be sent to you. Well, that's it for this week's Oxwide. Many thanks for your time today, and we'll see you again soon. Goodbye.